Okay, so we got a question that comes in through one of our messages on Facebook, and the question is, when exactly is the Battle of Armageddon before or after the Rapture? Okay, now of course this question comes in result of the video that I showed a couple days ago of me reading Armageddon, Oil and Terror by John Walvoord, who is now passed. But anyways, when exactly is the Battle of Armageddon? Well, it depends on your interpretation of when the rapture occurs, because some people believe in pre-tribulation, mid-trib, or post-trib. I was always taught in church growing up in a pre-tribulation rapture, which is where Jesus will come and get his church before the Great Tribulation. And of course, the Great Tribulation begins when Israel signs a peace treaty. The Antichrist is soon revealed, the one who will come to rule the earth. He'll speak on peace for 3.5 years. And then the last 3.5 years, the book of Revelation says, in addition to the book of Daniel, that he'll actually, he's referred to as the little horn in Daniel, that he'll actually rise up and he will desecrate the temple. And that, of course, is in Jerusalem. And he'll demand everyone worship him. And then the most horrendous 3.5 years that have ever been witnessed on earth, where more people will die in that time than at any point in human history. Jesus, God himself has to cut that off at 3.5 years because otherwise everybody could possibly be dead. And, you know, some people believe Christians will still be here. Some people believe that they will have already been raptured out either halfway through or before it begins. And so the Battle of Armageddon is essentially that last big battle in the last 3.5 years before Jesus returns. And there's a big difference between the rapture and the second coming. Okay, the rapture is an event most pre-tribulation Christians believe that that's going to occur because of passages like 1 Thessalonians 4 and 1 Corinthians 15, where in 1 Thessalonians, verses 13 through 18, it actually talks about being caught up or being snatched away, rapturo or raptizo. I'm not a scholar and I should have looked that up, but the original Greek there actually refers to like a catching up, a bringing up. And so that's something that's much different than in Revelation 19, where it talks about Jesus and his army, this triumphant march down from heaven, to where it's going to be an event everyone sees and everyone looks up and they're like, wow, um, there's Jesus and there's the armies of heaven, and that's like this big miraculous event. Um, that's very different. And like 1 Corinthians 15, a thief coming in the night, um, very different than that triumphant march down. So it really comes down to your interpretation of when do you believe the rapture will occur. And here's the thing, nobody really knows. And in all honesty, I don't believe the rapture or the lack of believing in the rapture, I don't believe that determines your salvation. I believe that comes through faith in Christ and Christ alone. But um, I do believe it's an interesting discussion. I still personally adhere to a pre-tribulation rapture. It could very well be that Christians get taken midway through or part of the way through. But if you read texts like scholars like John Wolford, who was not an infallible man, but he does a really good job of ironing out the causation in terms of the different events. He actually wrote his first book, Armageddon, Oil, and the Middle East Crisis, back in the 70s. And a lot of the events in the 90s with the Gulf War and Desert Storm, that actually came true. And a lot of people thought back then that that was going to be the end of the world. But it definitely is a chain of the events that have occurred and will continue to occur to show that biblical prophecy is going to always be proven true. So hopefully that first question, hopefully we answered that. Again, it really comes down to your interpretation of pre, mid, or post tribulation. So hopefully that helps out a little bit.